Pledge of Allegiance this evening? You do that? Okay. Begin to stay right where you are. Everyone stand. And you have to start us in unison. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and very well done, folks. Okay, roll call, please. Yes.
Director Lang.
Here.
Director Cussler.
Here.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Bus.
Here.
Thank you very much. Item 3 on our agenda, special presentations. One of my favorite evenings of the entire year. It's going to be Trails Education Days letter writing contest winners. And Elaine, if you could step up to the podium and get us started on this.
Happy to do that. Thank you. I'm Elaine Hagan. I'm the Trails Education Days coordinator and a director of the Conejo Open Space Foundation. The foundation raises funds to support Trails Education Days and other programs sponsored by COSCA and by ourselves. And we are particularly excited about this year's Trails Education Days writing contest, and I'll tell you why. But first, we truly appreciate the support that you give us for the Trails Education Days program and the assistance that we receive from CRPD staff is invaluable. Everybody is so helpful and it's just terrific. So thank you for that. This year, there's a bit of a different slant to the Trails Education Days writing contest. Sherry Lakin and Jennifer Fry, who are both retired 4th and 5th grade teachers and all long-term supporters of the program, took charge of the contest. And they modified the guidelines to align more closely with 4th grade science standards and to relate science concepts to what the students encounter during their Wildwood field trips. That adds value to the entire program, and it provides yet another way to enhance the educational experience for the students. So we're very gratified to Sherry and Jennifer for making that happen. And judging was a bit different this year too. Sherry and Jennifer recruited 9 additional retired 4th, 5th grade teachers to serve as judges. And they know what they're doing. They know 4th and 5th grade. So it worked out beautifully. The group selected 2 winners for each of the 16 participating schools, and then 5 grand prize winners district-wide. Choosing the 5 best entries from more than 660 entries was no small task, but the judges were up to the challenge. And we're fortunate to have 4 of the grand prize winners with us this evening and 3 of their teachers as well. So I would like to announce their names, their schools, and their teachers' names. And students, please stand when your name is called. And teachers, please just raise your hand. So first is Tyler Kilgore of Banyan, and his teacher is Michelle Eby. And she's not here, but the next is Emma Kang of Lang. You might well just stay standing, please. Pictures and everything. Emma Kang is from Lang Ranch, and her teacher is Lisa Kang. The third winner is Emily Smith of Weathersfield, and her teacher is Nancy Krellin. Emily could not attend tonight because tonight is the open house for Weathersfield. So, but we'll be sure that she receives your congratulations. And Sherry Lakin just arrived, so raise your hand, please. I said it. Yeah. Thank you for all the effort you've put into this. So, thank you. The fourth winner is Samara Smith of Westlake Hills, and her teacher is Melissa Sublet. And the fifth is Adelaide Greenbaum of Wildwood, and her teacher is here, Joelle Solis. So thank you, teachers, especially for the support you provide to the students to make all this happen. Thank you. And thank you, students, for such terrific work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to give each of our board members an opportunity to make some comments. And if any of you four young folks would like to make any comments, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So we'll call on you in just a moment. Director Lang, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Chair Huffer. As you mentioned, this is one of your favorite events for the Park District and Board and so forth. It's definitely one of mine. And to see the young people put in the efforts that it took, you know, to go out on a hike and so forth and be very observant, and then to recall it, you know, in order to incorporate it into your essay is very, very positive. And it shows that you've got a good future ahead of you. And I'll just mention the one thing that jumped out at me, and I'm not going to look at the essays right now, but one of you mentioned about the porcupine quills. Who is that? And the fact that they are hollow with air in it. And before I got to the reason, I got to wondering, I thought there was something inside the quills, but they just shoot the quills. And the purpose of having air in the quills, nature provides it with buoyancy, the ability to help, guess when it's swimming and so forth, to float. So I learned from all of your essays, and thank you, and keep up the good work. And we hope that in the future, you'll have a very good experience in literature or whatever you decide to do. So thank you all. And again, thank the teachers. Appreciate it.
Director Bess?
So my little girls are in 5th grade and 2nd grade, and I don't remember my 5th grader doing this. And I was so impressed with your writing, especially the quality of it. And we are definitely going to check out a lot of these trails that you mentioned in here this summer, because I did not know all of this, especially the one about the pineapple plant and that the bunnies eat it. I love that. So I'm really excited to share these with my daughters, and I will make sure my 2nd grader does this.
Director Cusworth?
I was highly impressed. These could have been written by high school students. I wish I could write as well as some of you could. This was amazing. So Tyler, is your grandmother Pam Kilgore? Well, say hello to her from me. We used to do Girl Scouts together a long time ago when our children were your age, not our grandchildren. So yes, I have many happy memories. I loved your details. I loved your sequential summary. I also was very impressed. I think you looked at your audience and that you were writing to your peers. So excellent job. Excellent job, Tyler. I really loved it. And then Emma, you're Emma. Wow, Emma, I loved your topic paragraph. Knew exactly what I was going to be reading about. And I've been on many hikes with Rob Ramidi. He's an excellent guide. And so I'll have to tell him I would love to be a guide next year. I really learned a lot. Rob has a lot of good details. I remember a lot of these things that you put in here. I loved your ending sentence, very personalized with your camera. And so excellent job on this. Very well written. You could probably get that published. It was so good. And then one thing, even though Emily's not here, I do want to mention in my notes for Elaine to tell this to the people who organize this. I wrote, very good to have a connection to class science curriculum. I'm glad they're learning about local environment and how it is relating to things. I always feel children know more about African animals and tropical plants than they know about what's right here in our Mediterranean climate. So thank you very much. And I loved here that you talked about, I'm going to say rock formations that are beautiful. I wish we had rock sculptures here in the Conejo Valley in our parks. So that was very good, but pass that on. I thought it was wonderful. Samara, loved your compare and contrast that you put in there with the trees. I'm glad you brought that in. Fabulous narrative, lots of details, good use of adjectives. That was very interesting. And I loved how at the bottom you said, I can't wait to show my family everything. Because if you don't share what you learned, then it's stopping with you. And we need to have everybody know in our community how important open space is and how we need to protect it. And I loved how all of the kids were talking about ecosystems. I think that went into what they were trying to bring in. We have to have our ecosystems. It's why it's important. So I put a big star here, important. Show your family, take them. I've taken kids, I teach first grade. They don't write this well. On hikes, and their parents who have lived right next to the trail that's by our school said they have never been there. And the kids have taken them back and taught them, and that's important. And then Adelaide. Boy, this was a really lovely narrative, very conversational, easy to read, great opening. I like how you started with a question there, really brought me in. Fabulous use of adjective, fun facts. That was a really sweet thing that you put in there. It was very creative. A couple of you mentioned the pineapple plant. Just so you know, if you take the pineapple plant, you rinse it off, make it nice and clean, throw it into some hot water, you'll have a nice pot of chamomile tea. So it is not just rabbits can eat that, but chamomile is all over the world in the pineapple plant. Fabulous job, kids. So impressed. It was a wonderful way to come home from work and read those. I appreciate it.
And I just have to make it an editorial comment. I believe Director Cusworth mentioned it briefly in passing, but in case you hadn't guessed, she's a school teacher. She's marking all of these very carefully and she had A's on every one of them. So.
I did not see any punctuation errors.
I was going to say, I was looking at your paper. I didn't see any red marks. Just all good marks.
Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I love reading all these papers. You know, I felt I was along on the hike with you. You know, like you just were kind of guiding me through. It's just like, gosh, I don't need to go on that hike now. I know it all, you know, after reading from the five of you. But it was fantastic. I learned that we have some good educators, not only in the classroom, but on the trail. And we have some good learners who are listening to what's being taught out there in the classroom and on the trails. And I also learned that we have some up and coming CRPD employees. So keep this up. I mean, you could be working in an office here writing with some of our executive team, or you could be out there in the trails teaching the next group of fourth graders out there. So thank you for participating. I appreciated your effort. I hope you all got A's if you were the grand prize winner. And if not, you're going to have to talk to somebody about that. But it was certainly worthy of the top grade that you got. So thank you for participating and thank you for being the outstanding students that you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to add my congratulations along with my fellow board members. The fact that Elaine told us how many submissions we had, over 600 students submitted their essays, and they narrowed down to a couple per school. And then the five of you out of 600 plus essays were considered to be the five best. So I think you really deserve every bit of accolades and congratulations that you can get I've been reading these essays for, I don't know, 10 or 11 years now. We get these each year. And every year when I read these, I learn something new. I mean, I hike Wildwood fairly frequently, but I'm definitely not as observant as you young folks are. And what you wrote in your essays, as I said, I had a chance to learn several things that I was not aware of after the years that I've been reading these. So congratulations. I am going to give each of you the opportunity, if you wish, to say a few words at the microphone. You don't have to. I don't want to put any pressure on you. But if you'd like to do that, you're more than welcome. Tyler, do you have anything you'd like to say? Attaboy, good job. Emma? No, okay, that's fine. It said no pressure. Samara? No. Adelaide? Ah, okay, well,
They speak with the writing.
yes. We do want to have all four of you come up. The board members are going to stand with you up here to get some pictures. We'll make sure that you're Director Lang.
Yeah, I have a question for Elaine. I'm not seeing her right now. Anyway, there you are. I too appreciated you putting the tallies of the number of entries in the schools, et cetera. How does this compare? I see you compared it to last year. There's not quite as many. Okay, so how did every student are required or is it
No,
up to them?
it's not a requirement. It depends on whether the teachers can work it into their schedules. And some teachers just are not able to make that happen. But maybe working with Ms. Lakin and Mrs. Fry, we might be able to find a way to make it more appealing, perhaps like making it be something that that the school supports more actively, that the district supports. We're hoping to do that. But overall, I was pretty pleased with 72% of the students participating.
Now,
That's a
did this-
bit more than it might have been a few years back.
Mhm. Now, do the individual schools have kind of like at the end of the year award nights? Could these students be recognized at those?
The way it worked this year, because of timing more than anything, is that for the grand prize winners and the 2 prizes per school, the 5 schools, we went individually to the schools, to the classrooms and did the presentations. And we're told that they really liked it. The teachers liked it and the students liked it. So we're going to continue to do that for the grand prizes. And the other ones, I think, often are presented at awards night, but it varies school to school.
Well, thanks again for all the efforts in the many years that you've been involved. And
Thank you.
again, it takes teachers and
It
parents and the whole.
It takes a village. It
Yep.
definitely does. So many volunteers, so many involved parents, and so many supportive teachers. So we're pretty fortunate in this community.
Great. Again, thank you and congratulations to all of you.
Okay, so we're gonna get the board members lined up here. We're gonna have the young people right in front of us. And we'll get some pictures, and I suspect there might be 1 or 2 parents who'd like to get some pictures also, so. And as always, the students and parents and teachers, you're welcome to stay for the entire meeting. I can guarantee to be really entertaining because we're talking about budgets tonight, so. Thank you all and congratulations again to the young folks for their awards. Okay, next item on our agenda, items from the public. I do have several speaker cards related to pickleball. Several of you noted that would go along with agenda item 7A. If you're talking about pickleball and you didn't put it in, I'm gonna have all the pickleballers speaking at agenda item 7A, which we'll get to fairly quickly. I do have a couple of other speaker cards, which we'll do for items from the public. First is Christine, and I'm going to butcher your name, Christine Menges. Okay.
Hi, I'm mainly here to introduce myself. My name is Christine Mangus, and I'm the new reporter for the Thousand Oaks Acorn. So I was just going to say hi. You're going to be seeing my face in your meetings more frequently now, of course, now that I'm working. And I'm excited to report on all the important issues and other things you're doing for the community. So hi there. Nice to meet you.
Great. Thank you for coming by, Christine. And thank you for introducing yourself.
Mr.
Now I
Chair-
know who that no longer stranger is in our audience. So,
Chair Huffer,
yes.
real quick. You're filling big shoes because your predecessor is now the editor. That covered our meetings.
Okay, second speaker is Carol Neerman.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here to talk about the situation with Conejo Senior Volunteer Program, specifically Busy Bees and the long time bullying that's been going on there. I haven't been here for a month, and I do wish to skip the additional information I had about the lunchroom because I'm pretty confident that that's going to be handled at a different level and it's going to have some resolution to that. I'm not as confident about some of the other issues being handled elsewhere. I'm hopeful, but not confident. So I'm just going to continue with what I had been doing here, which is to giving you the details of the decade of bullying that have been going on and the senior center's inability to deal with that. So to recap a little bit, because I got a little bit aside into the lunchroom situation, Pam continued her lying and ghosting, and it got to be a lot worse in 2018. I had cancer treatment and surgeries, and I was out for a while, or I was in and out. And so that changed a lot of the power dynamic. When I came back, it really ratcheted up, especially the physical bullying, because I was physically unable. You can see I got a walker. I was just physically a little bit more delicate than I was before. And, I think people took advantage of that. The lies continued to be spread. And at the time, I really didn't recognize it as bullying. I don't ever think of myself as a victim. And I thought if you had a bully, you had a victim. I didn't realize you could use the word target, but I definitely was a target, and it definitely was harmful to me, harmful to my reputation. When I saw Carol Kindelman at the front office telling another guest that I, was taking yarn and had nothing to show for it based on the lies that had been told, I just realized that the lies had infiltrated the entire CSVP office volunteer staff, as well as the CSVP employees. Particularly concerning to me was Rick Tanaka's behavior. I don't know if many of you recognized me from the Christmas parties, but some of you were applauding for my number of hours because I usually got, over in the early years, I got over 1,000 hours of volunteering in a year. And while you were, applauding me, Rick, on the other hand, on a regular basis, was calling me in and accusing me of padding my timesheets. And I just really got tired of hearing about how I had all this yarn and nothing to show for it, because clearly there was plenty to show for it. And it was just really insulting to have somebody continually question that. At the time, I was working for about 5 different agencies, and including getting up maybe 10:30 at night, going to a restaurant, picking up food, sometimes waiting a long time for them to get it, getting up at 6 o'clock to go down to the food bank to get the, load of things, stopping by Sprinkles in the 8:30 in the morning and having to wait a while for that, and just being told that, well, those hours aren't real. That again was really frustrating to me because, I busted my butt on some projects when I was physically able to do that. And then just to be treated like that, it was very hurtful to me. So, sure, I will just stop right here and continue next time. Thank you.
Next speaker card is for Bill Borba. Oh, okay. Right. I think that is. Hey, everyone else is football. Very good. Moving to item 5 on the agenda, approval of the agenda.
So
Turn my
moved.
microphone on. Director Lang, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Director Cussworth, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Carries unanimously. Item 6, consent calendar A, B, and C. Jim, do we need to handle C separately since it's a resolution, or can we can handle all
We
three?
can handle a resolution. on the
Okay.
consent calendar.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on 6A, B, or C? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for that.
Director Cussworth, thank you.
I'll second.
And a second, Director Lang. Any discussion or questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Item 7A, deferred matters. This is a public hearing for the preliminary budget fiscal years 2023-24, 24-25. We're talking this evening about the proposed operating budget, so I'm going to open this public hearing. And we're going directly to Ms. Smith.
Sure. Yeah, directly to Ms. Smith.
All right, go.
And if I could ask Cameron to make me a moderator so I can share my screen with you all to talk about, operating budgets, the coolest thing ever. So, let me get this going.
Yeah, no, she does a good job.
It's thinking. Okay. Okay, so today we're primarily focusing on the operating portion of the budget. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through the budget process, the assumptions we make, the trends that we're seeing, and then open it up for public comments for part of the public hearing and any input from the board. So the first thing is kind of the process that we have. So on April 6th, we approved the preliminary budget, which is exactly the current year budget. It's a starting point for our budgeting process. It's required to be approved by June 30. We do it earlier to allow for more public hearing opportunities and also for us to work with staff to make any changes that we would need. And it allows for spending authority come July 1 if for some reason there's not a final budget approved by then. As part of that process, we met with all of our work centers and our different divisions to see if there were any changes from the prior year that we should be incorporating. And then after all that input, we make sure that it's structurally balanced, meaning that the revenues are the same as the expenses. So in this budget, what's included is an assumption of 2.75 increase in property tax revenues every year. We're maintaining the same level of full-time positions that we have, and it includes the proposed MOU impacts that are later on the agenda for tonight. And then a couple challenges that I just wanted to flag for everybody that we're addressing, and you'll see it in the numbers, is our pension funding and our capital funds that are decreasing from the most recent years, and I'll get a little bit into that, but on the pension funding side, we're super, super fortunate that we've been very good about setting aside money. You might remember this chart from when we talked about the reserve funds that we're currently at 105% funded for our pension liabilities, which is extraordinary. Most public agencies are at the 70 to 80% on a good day. So that's very, very good. To show over time, this is how much the district is paying to CalPERS for those pension obligations going back to 2014. The 2 years on the right are the 2 budget years that are in your packet. And that is because as the market fluctuates, they do adjustments. So a portion of every payment, this chart is based on a percentage of salary, per percentage of payroll. So the green portion at the bottom is the cost that goes to CalPERS for the current year of accrued liability. And that varies between 7 and 9%. The blue portion is the part that fluctuates the most with market performance, and that's the unfunded accrued liability from all the prior years. So you can see the trend was going up. This goes back, I think, to 2013, and it's scheduled to peak in 2024. Now, as I mentioned before with the reserves, we're expecting that to change a little based on the weird performance the last couple years and the market fluctuating, but we do have tools with our trust to try to address that annual impact to our budget. So again, we've been really good about setting aside money for this purpose so that hopefully we'll start seeing those numbers start going down and we have the tools to make sure it doesn't keep going up in that trend. So good news there. Next issue is our capital fund. So this is to kind of manage your expectations about the availability of capital funds. So what we use for our capital projects is primarily 5 sources. So we have those 3 assessments for Dos Vientos, Rancho Conejo, and the district-wide assessment. We also have a capital project fund that's typically funded by things like our cell tower leases and any park development fees we have. And then a portion of the savings from the general fund every year, a portion gets set aside for those pension obligations, and the rest typically goes towards capital funding. So that's how these projects are funded. And you'll see the last 2 years for fiscal year 21-22, we had a ton of one-time money that we were super grateful for. We got some from the state. We had the Woolsey fire settlement, and we had contributions from the city. So we had 2 very, very stellar capital fund years, and we're going back to more of a normal basis after that. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is because we've been putting more into capital assets, the operations and maintenance of those capital assets is increasing over time. So the expectation is more of these capital funds are going to be needed to do that operating and maintenance, and less will be available for capital. And I can kind of show you the trends that are heading that way. So this is just purely the capital projects. Again, you see those 2 big spikes, and then we're going back to more than normal levels for this next 2-year budget. Out of those funds, this is the operations and maintenance that are required to address those assets. And you can see it's pretty much it's pretty much increasing along with typical inflation. And the majority of those expenses are for things like servicing contracts and the annual repairs that are needed for things. There's an odd little spike in fiscal year 2021, and that's because of the COVID needs that we had. So it included increased PPE, it included porta potties that we had and things like that. So there was a bit of a spike there. So with that, those are the 2 trends that I just wanted to make you aware of. We're well positioned and we're aware of those trends, but wanted everybody to hear. So all the budget packet that you have, it has all the budgets in their funds. So we budget by fund, and that's what's in your packets. But this, I wanted to show you kind of the whole district-wide perspective. If you put all the funds together, what does that look like? So these are the two years. It's 35 million the first year, 37 million the second year. The bulk of our revenue is from property tax. Then there's some assessment revenue, recreation revenue, contributions from other governments and grants, and some carryovers for the use of our fund balance. And then on the expenditure side, you can see the bulk of our expenses for both year is in our general fund. Year 2 is a little bit bigger because of the scheduled capital projects that were funded in the plan that we talked about in May 4th. So that's the reason for the difference between the 2 years. So because this is primarily focused on the operating budget, that's in the general fund. So I'm going to go into more detail into the general fund for you all. So this is just kind of the history of the general fund revenue. Hopefully you can kind of see it. I know it's a little tiny. There was a dip when we had COVID, which I think was pretty standard. There was a spike from the Edison settlement, and then we're getting back to kind of on track with that trend that we've had. So good news in the recovery of COVID. The expenditures, it's a similar story where we've got, we did big cuts in COVID to make sure that we were being responsible, and now we're going back up to that trend line. And you can see this is just showing the gap between the revenues and the expenses. And again, that gap between revenues and expenses, any savings from salaries and benefits are used to go towards our pension obligations. And the rest of the savings goes towards basically our savings account that can get contributed to our capital projects. Okay, and so for the general fund, again, the bulk is our property tax revenue, recreation, other revenue. And all these details are in your packet too. You can go into detail. And then this is the expenditures by division. Parks and Rec are pretty much equal. Management services is about 4.2 million. And we try to make sure that management services stays under 15% of the total budget for the district. This year is at 12%. And then we have transfers in there, and those are contributions to capital projects, contributions to the assessments for things like ad valorem and general benefit, and also the general fund contributions to the capital plan that Andrew presented last month. And then these are the expenses, where the green is the salaries and benefits, the blue is services and supplies, and the yellow is capital outlay. And here is the district-wide assessment breakdown. And so I do want to call your attention to this one because it does show how we have a small amount in there for salaries and benefits, because this is one of the funding sources for those capital improvements. And you can see the service and supply number is increasing from 29% to 32%. And that's because, as you've been seeing, service contracts and the annual repairs that have to happen are increasing in expense. So that is the district-wide assessment. For Dos Vientos, we have some capital projects in year one, so that's the primary difference between the 2 years. Rancho Conejo, they're almost identical for the 2 years. And then, so that's all of the operating stuff. You also have in your packets, it includes all of the budgeted requirements for the capital plan that Andrew went over last month. So now we've shown you the proposed capital and the proposed operating. And so this is our opportunity to hear from you. If there's anything that we want to change, I'll pair that with what I work on with Andrew, and then we come back at the next board meeting for potentially a final recommendation and adoption. So those are the next steps, and I'm available for questions, or we can go to public comment and then have questions from the board, or however you want to address that.
Thank you, Melissa. I think we'll start with board questions to you, and then we'll go to public comments. So any board members have questions about the detailed information that Melissa provided for us? Director Nichols.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It kind of gave a little broader picture than page after page after page, but nonetheless, that's what budgets are made of, is page after page.
Yep.
I just had a kind of a trivia type of a question, which you may or may not have the answer to.
Okay.
When did the district in the general fund pass the $20 million mark as a annual budget? Just wondering how long it took to get from 20 to 30.
I don't know. I'm trying to give a guesstimate based on it.
It looks
The
like
general fund portion tends to increase about $500,000 a year. So working backwards, I can probably get you a better number than that, but not off the top of my head.
I just see it looks like on page 71 that in the 2021 actual, it was like just over 25,000. And now 4 years later, we're at 30. That's the 20 million. So just again, curious.
Yeah, and that's also an odd year because it was COVID. So I would need to go back to try to find that for you.
All right. And then also, I'm just looking at, again, page 71 of the general fund, proposed budgets for 23-24 and 24-25, which is about 29 and 30 million. But you're saying that the district wide is 35 and 37 million. Is that correct?
So the general fund, the capital projects fund, the equipment fund, Dos Vientos, Rancho Conejo, and the district-wide assessment all together is 35 million.
And is there a page in our packet that has that?
No, I can include that in the next one if you like.
Yeah, I just was curious as what the total is about.
Yep. It's about 35 million.
Okay. Because seeing all the parts is nice, but it's also nice to see the whole.
The whole, absolutely, I can do that.
Okay. Another question on page 73. At the bottom of the page, you have a nice colorful bar graph or bar chart. And I noticed in 2022 to 23 estimated actual, the carryover fund balance is significantly different than all other years. I was wondering why that is.
Let me get to where you are. Oh. So that is because of the general fund contribution to all of those capital projects that we had on the other chart where I was showing you how we had such big high spending for capital projects. And when we had to do those matching funds for the various funds we received from the state and stuff. So that was the capital, that was the CRPD match to a lot of those capital funds.
Okay, so is there it says carryover / fund balance. So were these allocated in the previous fiscal year, unspent, and so carried over into that fiscal year?
Correct.
Just we couldn't spend the money or we
Fast
couldn't-
enough. You
couldn't
talked
get
to
the-
Andrew.
couldn't get the projects completed.
Yeah, just construction, right?
Yeah.
So we started projects maybe mid-year. And then so we roll over depending on construction, like Page Lane Neighborhood Park broke ground in October. End of October of 21, we opened it 22 of October, right? So
Okay,
it's just, yeah, construction sometimes takes a little bit longer than we would all hope that it takes.
okay. So all the funds were allocated, hoping to be spent in a given time period, but then construction is what it is and just pushed it out there.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Just wanted to clarify. I think that's it for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from board members? Director Cussworth.
I don't have a question. I just want to compliment you on the thoroughness of your report.
Well, thank you.
And it was just very easy to read, so well done and beautiful. I'm always impressed with how beautiful you make these, even interjecting pictures. But yes, it was very thorough and I enjoyed your presentation also. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chair, I think that's the first time I've heard the term beautiful used in a budget.
It's appreciated.
She's looking at the pictures, not at the numbers and pie
Oh,
charts. So
Okay.
That's
Now I
why we
follow.
put pictures up there.
it's the aesthetics that count, right? Right. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, we do have several speaker cards on this item. Just to reiterate what Melissa said, in our prior board meeting, May 4th, we spent a lot of time talking in detail about the capital budget, which I suspect is what most of you are interested in. Our final budget hearing will be in 2 weeks on June 15th. Which time both the operating budget and the capital budget will be reviewed one last time. And at that time, the board will take action on the total budget, both capital and operating. So with that understanding, more than welcome to talk about capital items tonight. And the first speaker card that we have is for Mary Lyman.
Thank you. I have a presentation to follow along. Hi, I'm Mary Lyman. Thank you very much for having me here today. As you're going through the budget cycle, I has had 4 areas of focus that I hope you would look at. I'm presenting today as an individual. I do play pickleball. I am not on the club board. I do participate in the activities and it's meant a lot to me in my life. So number 1, I request that as you go through the budget, you put the focus on current and forecast demographics. And I used a very tiny sample size, which is my personal home. They have a picture, I have a graph here. Where's the camera? And what I have is when I moved in 1987, the 9 homes on our cul-de-sac had a total of 35 residents and 51% of them were school-aged children. Today in 2023, still 9 homes and the percentage of school-aged children is 15%. The number of seniors has gone up. It was 5% in 1987. The number of seniors is 65% now on my street. Definitely aging in place. I think Director Buss, in her personal and professional life, with the school-age children and being a real estate professional, sees this probably every day. The house next door to me went up for sale. The only house on our cul-de-sac that has children was excited that there would be more children in the neighborhood. Alas, it was bought by a couple in their 70s and no children. So they were quite disappointed.
And I just had two graphics that showed, this is in 1987, all the school-age children that look like they've been run over by a tractor there. But we went from 35 residents and 18 school-age children to today, 3 darling school-age children who I love are on the street, and it's different. I'm not against children. I'm currently spent every Tuesday as a first grade reading aide at Miss Palmer's Banyan class, and they are amazing. My point number 2, please focus your 2023-2024 capital expenditures on demand versus supply gaps. That would be my focus of looking at demands. Request number 3. Andrew Mooney, Tom Hare did a fabulous job of going around talking about some of the developments they came up with for future pickleball courts. I never was involved in that detail, but it occurred to me later that they were all what we used to call greenfield projects. In other words, take up some grass and build something from scratch. And I was hoping that maybe there might be a focus on court conversion over greenfield projects, maybe a fraction of the time and a fraction of the money. And you never know how things evolve and change. Maybe in the future that could be an option of instead of all greenfield projects. My 4th request is specific. Rancho Conejo playfields get a huge amount of use. They have no shade there. There's no gazebo, no shade. Fabulous soccer participation, fabulous tennis, pickleball, baseball, softball, community. It's built right into the Rancho Conejo homes, and there's no shade there. I would recommend that a gazebo be put right next to the play yards, between the play yards and the softball field. You know, they get the ones, I use Banyan Park, a fraction of the size, 2 gazebos, huge amount of use every Memorial Day, Labor Day, birthday, anniversary, whatever, huge family stuff. So I personally request that maybe Rancho Conejo needs a shade structure. Thank you.
Mary, thank you very much. I'm very impressed by the work you did on this, particularly in the demographics. So
Thank you. I was only disappointed that I couldn't provide, I offered 2 weeks in advance to provide it electronically so I wouldn't waste paper. I know my first graders would not be happy with me, but that's currently not an option. But thank you, Director.
okay, and just a couple of brief comments. Your item 3 talking about court conversion. I know there have been discussions about this in the past, and I don't want to say it's a problem, but the issue is that there are maybe not as many, but there are a passionate group of tennis players who would take issue with the idea of conversion. And that's one of the primary reasons that we're looking at admittedly a longer process, but at what you call greenfield versus conversion. So, I know that Andrew has taken note of your suggestion about a gazebo over at Rancho Conejo. So
And Andrew's been a great partner all along. So thank you very much.
thank you. And as we're going through the cards, we do have several more. I will ask that if you have some of the exact same points that Mary has made here, that you could say, I agree with Mary, as opposed to restating everything exactly, just so it'll speed up the process a little bit. But you're welcome to speak your mind. That's what we're here for tonight. Second speaker card we have is for Andy Geeson.
Good evening, and thanks for letting me speak. My name is Andy Geeson. I am a 30-year resident of the Conejo Valley, and as my wife points out or calls me, a hopeless pickleball junkie. I've been playing for years. I hope, just in starting out, that you all realize what a fantastic asset we already have at the Rancho. We call it Ventu Park, the Rancho Conejo play fields. You did it right. I kind of split time between here and Colorado. I play pickleball all over the country, and I will tell you that these courts that we have, the 6 dedicated pickleball courts, are as good as it gets. And for those of you who don't play pickleball, and Mary kind of alluded to converting various courts, some up in Colorado, we play indoors in the winter, and those are converted. basketball courts, and then more frequently you'll see converted tennis courts, and it has caused friction between the pickleball and tennis communities, though there's a lot of crossover. But when you have dedicated courts like you've done, it just makes it so much more fun and competitive. You can have tournaments. You don't have balls flying all over the place. I mean, on these converted courts that used to be tennis, you get a lot of distractions. And so these are as good as it gets. I was in New Orleans recently. I've been playing in Utah, and if anything, we're just short of the courts, which I'll talk about in a second here. The current courts are used all day. I mean, it's amazing. I used to play tennis, and one of the hassles about tennis or many things is that you have to schedule your people, and somebody will get injured or they'll flake out at the last second and your day is kind of ruined. Out here at Rancho Conejo, you can show up any time of the day or night, with the limits, but there you can pick up a game and you meet people, you get fit, and it's just a very unique arrangement. I was there this morning. All 6 of the dedicated courts were full, and of course we have 4 converted tennis courts, and they were all being used. Not only that, there was probably a half an hour wait. So there is, as Mary kind of alluded to, there's a gap between supply and demand for courts, and that is being exacerbated as time goes on. So, we've been a little bit of a victim of our own success and growth in the sport. And it's the same problem all over the place, by the way. From your perspective.
Excuse me, Andy, if I could have you wrap up in about 30 seconds or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Thank you.
We're getting people from all over the place. We see people coming in from Santa Barbara. We see people coming in from the Antelope Valley. They're bringing, you're getting people and revenue in. Afterwards we'll go and eat at the local restaurants. The other thing is you get people young and old. There's a guy that I play with all the time. He's celebrating his 80th birthday next week. So you get a wide perspective. We take great pride in the courts. We maintain them. For all these reasons, I just hope that in this beautiful budget that we were talking about before, that the CRPD can commit some additional resources to additional courts and do it as soon as possible. They'll be well used and well taken care of. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. Next is Tim Bearer.
Hello. I spoke last time, and I appreciate the opportunity to share again some thoughts after hearing Andy speak and others. This whole thing, my family comes from a very athletic background, and I would say that pickleball is, I believe, and I've listed them, my 13th passionate sport in my life. And I will tell you that I've never seen anything like this, the move towards this sport. There's never been a sport that I've experienced where so many people in such a rapid manner have come to love and become passionate about a sport. And that's what pickleball is all about. When you talk about court conversions, you realize, and I think everybody here is aware, you can take a tennis court and put 4 pickleball courts, or 3 if you want to spread them out a little nicer to accommodate them. But the demand for those courts, when you see empty tennis courts, those of us who are pickleball fans are just like, God, there could be people playing pickleball there and we wouldn't have all the people waiting like they do at Rancho Conejo. There's just not enough facilities. As Andy is, I'm also a member at the Westlake Athletic Club. And we saw our 13 tennis courts take a court away, and everybody said, what is going on? They created 4 pickleball courts. This is just before COVID. And it went crazy. My wife and I were 2 of the very first converts. People said, oh, it's going to ruin your tennis game. But we said, no, I think it's going to enhance it. And the experience and the social aspects definitely did so. It became so popular so quick that right after COVID, they took court 12 away and added 4 more courts. So we now have 8. The membership at the club has maxed out with pickleball players. They have pickleball only memberships and it is maxed out. As Andy knows, any night of the week at Westlake Athletic Club, you can sign up from 4:30 to 6 or 6 to 7:30. It's sold out Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Thursday nights, I think, which are the 3 nights of open play. And there's waiting lists. And at 6:30, they announce or at what 4:30 to 6, at 6 o'clock, they announce the 6 o'clock players must leave, or the 4:30 players must leave because the 6 o'clock players are now here. We've got to give them the courts. And it's just, there's never been anything like this sport, you guys. You have to realize that this is really happening. And we've encouraged you all to come out to the courts. Really, if you haven't been, you've got to see what's going on at Rancho Conejo, because it's such a microcosm. It's really with the, we do have Del Prado, which is 4 courts. 2 are permanent, but 2 are temporary. And that's what Andy's talking about. You have the tennis lines mixed with pickleball lines. It's confusing to some people. It's just not the same experience that we have at Rancho Conejo on the 6 permanent courts. And I think we're just all advocating for you to understand the expansion, the growth, what's going on with this sport, because people are demanding to play and there's not enough facilities. It's just that easy, or that simple, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Catherine Nolan.
Hi, board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. I wanted to thank, first of all, Friedel for sharing the video by email. There was a video that was created by 2 of our players who aren't even part of our club, who are passionate about pickleball expansion, and they created a video at Rancho Conejo using a drone to film what it looks like on a regular day. So I hope you all had a chance to see that. During time, we have no personal benefit from coming here. And we just feel passionate about pickleball and about having enough places to play.
Catherine, could you hold on just a moment? We seem to be having some technical difficulties. I don't know, because you're not coming through on the.
Okay. And by the way,
Now it's working, so.
Oh, there. Oh, sorry. Oh, it was me.
Operator error. Thank you.
Anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming today, because it's all time that people could be spending doing other things, and pickleball is important to all of you, and I appreciate that you came. So you can sit down. Thank you. As I mentioned, the video was created by 2 passionate pickleball players who just donated their time and got a drone and flew it up there, and the other guy edited the whole thing. I would like to give each of you a copy of a magazine that's created by another local player. She's on the team. Do you mind if I pass these out? That's fine. So this is that who is the editor, I believe, and she's a local. And I also wanted to point out Diane and Phil Chitwood, who don't know I'm going to do this, but Diane and Phil Chitwood were involved with the organization of the Rancho Conejo courts. They were on the committee related to the building of the first courts, and they're here today too. And I wanted to thank CRPD. We just are here because pickleball, all of us see the need for more courts, and we're hoping that, as other speakers have said, that it can get into the budget sooner rather than later, because we need more courts for all the players who are new coming in, and there's just not enough places to play. Oh, and lastly, I invited you all to come out to play with us, and I wanted to thank you for responding to my emails and coming to the courts or making plans to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I want to thank you for the invitation. I did get a chance to get out there and hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too badly. I do have a pickleball paddle now and some pickleballs, so yeah.
That's great. I have to say you have natural ability.
Yeah.
No,
If you
really.
didn't want something, you might not say that.
Well, I do want something, that's true, but no, you're athletic. And so we're looking forward to having you come and play with us again.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. No laughing over there. All right, next speaker is, did LJ Scamahorn?
6 weeks ago, when I was here and began to become more informed about how the group works and everything that you've done for us, Director Lang was kind enough to give us the history of when you went to Salt Lake and came back in 2015. And Catherine and I talked and said, words have a tendency to go in one ear and out the other. And could there be a way that we could memorialize our appreciation, because those courts clearly at the time and put us ahead of Beverly Hills, put us ahead of Woodland Hills, Santa Monica. And so to memorialize our appreciation, since at the time, there was only two of the directors currently on the board that voted on this, Director Lang and Director Huffer. And I'd like to read, before we give this to them, the inscription. With gratitude forever to CRP directors George Lang and Chuck Huffer, from the thousands of pickleball players in the Conejo, fathers of Conejo Valley Pickleball, for having the vision in 2015 to fund 2 pickleball courts before 98% of the population knew what pickleball was, leading to enjoyment by thousands. Thank you. One for each of you. Having said that, that was 2015, and it's now been 8 years. And I do have a question that in the last 6 weeks, several of us have observed data that leaves me with a question that's quite troubling. And I'd like to share it with you. And since we can't do PowerPoint here, I'm just going to give you a sheet of paper, just if you give each one of them that question. And we would like to have the opportunity to have you evaluate the data before you vote and pass judgment on capital expenditures. And so what we'd like to do is request, it doesn't require the whole board, but possibly the pickleball subcommittee that I know Director Nichols and Director Huffer sat on. If we could share that data with you, it wouldn't take more than 15 minutes. If we could do that sometime next week before we get to June 15th. Could we do that?
First of all, I'll give you an extra 30 seconds or so because you've been handing stuff out. I'll have you work with staff in terms of arranging a subcommittee meeting. A lot of other things that have to be taken care of as well, but
Sure.
I would certainly look at scheduling that. So
Perfect. Thank you.
okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Next speaker card, Mark Radike. Was I close?
Hello, my name is Mark Radike. I live in Newbury Park, and I spend, in many people's opinion, way too much time at Rancho Conejo Playfield. I teach all the classes that CRPD offers at Rancho Conejo Playfield. I teach during each session, I teach 10 classes a week, and I run 2 different leagues. So I know that a lot of people stare at me when I'm on the the pickleball courts giving a class because they wish I would be anywhere but there. Each class has 10 people enrolled, so that's 100 people a week that are on those courts playing. Of those 10, 3 are beginner classes. And so there's 30 people a week there. Over a course of a year, that's 150 people that I teach. And there's another class at Del Prado. There's another 50. So over the course of a year, we're involved in introducing the game to 200 people. And many of them have waited 6 months to get into the class because it's very difficult to get into the class. The classes fill up within minutes, 5-10 minutes, and everything's full. Oftentimes for the beginners, there are 20-25 people on the waiting list. And many of those people come in and say, I've been on the waiting list for 6 months. I'm so happy to be here. So there is a real need among people to learn pickleball. And mainly of the people that are taking the beginning class are people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I found that listening to several of you speak, that there is a demographic that is looking for something to do as they age and as they within their physical abilities. And a lot of them are finding pickleball matches that need for them to be out. And because of the unique character of pickleball and the open play system that we've employed at the courts, anybody can come to the courts. They can put their paddle in. Everybody knows that if you're a new player, it takes quite a bit of courage to step into a crowd of other players and say, can I play with you? I don't know much about this sport, but I'd like to learn. And most of us pay it forward for a limited period of time. And then, so they get used to that. Once people get used to the going and meeting up with their friends, it's very enjoyable. You can, when you have time to walk away and go to play pickleball, there's always something there and someone to greet you and just talk pickleball. So I think that this is a demographic and the younger people are coming in. I'm really happy to see schools are starting to pick this up seriously. And globally, it's becoming much more popular. It's a trend that's going, and I don't think we've seen the peak of that trend yet. I think there are going to be more people coming in to the sport at all different ages, and I encourage you to seriously consider allocating budget money sooner than later. For us in our 60s and 70s, we're not getting any younger. We want places to play. You have shown that you are interested in building state-of-the-art courts, and I have no doubt that the next project that you fund for pickleball will be just as good as the first one was, and you'll have twice as many people very grateful for your decision to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Next speaker is Linda Papas Diaz.
I'm Linda Pappas Diaz, a pickleball player. I spent 30 years in local government, and that's what brought me to Thousand Oaks, was working for city government. And this is the first city I was a part of that actually had a separate recreation district. I see that it's kind of a thing in the county with a couple of them in Simi. And so it was a different thing to learn about, but I commend all of you because any local government politically person that has to run and then put up with citizens and the staff, and we have Bill here who's a school board member, we're all with the grassroots, we're the people who are complaining about something or squeaky wheels getting the grease. So I commend all of you. What I've been most impressed with CRPD for the 15 plus years I've been here and worked and whatever, is the forethought. And I knew that recreation departments are a special breed. They're you get the activities, the people to teach them, that keep them going, but then you also have to build things and maintain them. And so and I've worked in places where parks were part of public works and, it's all this kind of convoluted thing. But it's the forethought and the execution that recreation departments really have. But here as a separate entity, I've been most impressed with this department. And what I've learned after playing pickleball for a few years is that in this county, it came and you had the first fields at Del Prado and then at Rancho. And so you were ahead of the curve of everybody. When I started in 2019, I could sign up at 10 o'clock in the morning and I played my first classes with people from Camarillo and all over because it wasn't that full. And that summer, 15 of us from a class could be at Rancho all afternoon on a Sunday and nobody else was there. We were like RVers because we'd bring all our stuff and play and there'd be hardly anywhere. And it's not just because of COVID, but suddenly 4 years later, you can't get in and you have to wait a half an hour. And I walk around, yes, I'm retired. I refuse to really be a senior and go, how don't these people work? Where are they? How are people here? But I think people are remotely because it's all ages. And so it's not just a case of that, but I was reading about Camarillo and they're limiting things. Everything's so utilized and we were on the front end of it that I don't want us to get behind because we were the cutting edge and bringing it forward. In these 3 years that we've had that not only did they develop the Rancho Conejo kind of organization, but it evolved into a set club, the Ventura County Pickleball Club, and we're still evolving. And if you know Catherine at all, it's not just being a player. Suddenly I'm on the board. It's like, I'll help you with meetings. I don't have to be on a board, but it's that volunteer and excitement. And so it's all ages. I know we don't want to pit one group or sport or anything or capital improvement project against another. But if there's any way to start some of the planning in year 2 and not just year 3, sharing it with the Orchard Skate Park that is already there, otherwise, if we wait too long, we'll actually be catching up. I mean, for whatever reason, our hub with our club that's countywide and everything else has been the focus in Ventura County, and we want to keep it that way. So, it's a great sport. Hey, if you watch it on Pro TV, that's not the game we play. It's the only sport I know that there's like 3 levels. There's the people who really hit hard, there's pros, and then the rest of us. And it's still the same game, and if they can have curling in the Olympics and some of these offshooted games, we're still going, well, why isn't there pickleball? Because then maybe they'd finally get a uniform and people wouldn't look kind of crappy when they go out to play. There might be, we might know what pickleball uniforms look like. So come out and play. I commend and thank all of you because it's been, I'm got 4 years in and I'm still bad, but at least it's fun. And you get to know, and to think that we've organized and come and you've had this many people from pickleball here at every study session. And I know what that means, that it's not, they don't want to take away from another sport, but do what CRPD does best, which is to keep it going and add to it and not let us get behind in a capital project that's really needed. And thanks.
Thank you, Linda. And just to comment, you made some comment about, you were complimenting us for putting up with people, and we've had more people show up at more of our meetings in the last couple of months than we've had in a long time. And without exception, you all have been very polite and passionate, but polite and not storming the gates or anything like that. So thank you all very much.
That used to be my advice to anybody coming. The squeaky wheels get the grease, but you've got to compliment and support the elected officials and the staff and give alternatives and not just be that way. But you're also recreation. So, we don't have to fight with the public works, bad streets or anything. We all love you, but I'm glad that we could be supportive of you. That's why we're here, to all of us, to make it work together.
Great. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
Last speaker card is for Bill Gorbeck, and I apologize for putting your card at the bottom of the pile, but that just sort of, it was easier for me. So I apologize, Bill.
He did it on purpose.
As was stated, I'm Bill Gorback. I am here just representing myself, not the board on which I sit. And first of all, I want to, in case they see the replay later, I want to congratulate our four of them that were here, our 5 kids that were here formerly, and their teachers. And I hope that everyone will recognize how much extra the teachers who don't have extra time put in to do those kind of things. So that was my first congratulations. Okay, I have more of a question rather than a comment. And I once heard, someone told me that CRPD would be willing to build courts if the schools could find a place to do it, that you would pay for the resurfacing and the placing of the courts. Is that offer still there? And as a follow-up question, if that offer is still there, I was wondering if that has been submitted to our public works person, Dr. Hayek, or our superintendent, Dr. McLaughlin, or our principals, so they could announce that they have spark. Because I have envisioned certain areas where I would put them, especially at TO. We do, as everyone has said, and I'm going to follow your advice. I'm just going to agree with everyone that said, we have a desperate need, particularly in central Conejo Valley, for pickleball courts. And what I do kind of disagree with some of our speakers with is each of our schools, anytime I mention pickleball, and they know me because I've mentioned it on the board dais on several occasions. Some of my board members are sick of me saying pickleball, but I've mentioned it, and they had, anytime I mention it at schools or at school settings, they say, oh, our PE teachers are teaching that. Now they're temporary lined courts. They're not the best, but our demographics are changing rapidly. You know, I go out there to just practice my serve, which God only knows needs practice. And I go out there in the afternoon after school is out, and there are kids out there playing. And it's changing. We're gonna have competition from different age groups coming rapidly, especially starting in about 3 weeks when they don't have school. So I did want to ask that, whether there is a possibility of putting it on school sites if the principals will allow that and if they know that that's there. Second of all, I did want to thank you. I reserve Wednesday mornings for my indoor pickleball at the recreation center. That is my health and welfare period of time. I want to thank you, Board Member Nichols, for coming out and seeing it on occasion. And just want to thank you for what you do, but also ask if we could do it cheaper by finding land on the school sites in the central area and putting it on there.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I'm going to defer either to our general manager or Parks and Planning person about the thought that you had, the question you had about school property.
Well, if that's an offer, so, you know, you kind of like to see how other people do things successfully or do them well. So I know we've reached out to the Rancho Simi Rec and Park District, because I said to my friend, the general manager there, Dan Pernick, how the heck did you guys get all those middle schools to have pickleball courts? He said, we didn't do a thing. Simi School District just built pickleball courts at all the middle schools. And then they subsequently entered into an agreement with the school district. So Rancho Simi and Simi Valley Unified School District entered into an agreement where the Rec and Park District could bring porta potties and stuff like that so that it would be usable by the general public when the school was otherwise locked down. So evenings and weekends. I haven't been out to see them, but that's the model that I heard of. Yeah, so that's the model I heard of there that seems super attractive to us. But in you know, I know that again, not the place to have a negotiation or discussion about whether this is a good idea or something your organization can allow for. But I think whenever there's an opportunity to work together, I think public agencies serving the common good, you know, multiple constituencies, that's a fantastic way to approach problem solving. So we are all ears. Yeah, I think an arrangement that makes the most sense for both of us, like I can't sit here and negotiate whether we're gonna pay and you're gonna give us the land. Seems like a pretty good place to start a discussion, but for sure, absolutely. For sure.
Is there anything you wanted to add, Andrew? Not a thing. Smart man. Okay. Just so you know, Bill, I'm sure you do know that there is a little bit of a precedent, some years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, the school district allowed us to convert some of the hard court, either a hard court or hard courts over at Los Cerritos into foosball. And of course, foosball is every bit as popular as pickleball. So anyway, Director Lang, did you have a comment?
Yes, I think I'm going to become a pickleball player, currently recovering from knee replacement surgery, but I'm a previous tennis player here in the Conejo Valley, 1965, and going around looking for tennis courts. And there weren't many tennis courts around. Estella Park had one, and I think the next one is Borcher or some. So I went through the same thing as a tennis player. And then I converted to racquetball, became an avid racquetball player and stopped playing tennis. And then my racquetball career ended when I ran my head in the corner, right front corner of the court, ended up with laminectomy surgery for 2 herniated discs. So I think as soon as I recover from my knee replacement surgery, you might find me on the pickleball court. And yeah, then mine was the 9th of January, and then I fell middle of February. But anyway, long story short, I'm never short. I happen to be chair. As you know, we rotate chair position every 5 years. I was the chair when we dedicated Rancho Potrero racquetball courts. And I don't know if anybody here present attended the opening of the Rancho Potrero courts. Anybody? Well, anyway, we conducted a tournament, community-wide tournament, and 2 COU players ended up winning that. So I know there's a lot of interest. I see the photos in this pickleball magazine of families, young children, et cetera. So you do cross the age group line, and I think that is a very positive and healthy type of program. And CRPD, as you know, is always into healthy programs like that. So I think pickleball has a big future here in the Conejo Valley, and I'm eager to have the opportunity to find myself out there someday soon. So thank you. Jana.
We're calling it Conejo Pickleball Day.
Okay, Director Buss.
No. Okay, so I don't know who can answer this, but I have heard that Westlake Village and Camarillo are both further ahead than we are in building pickleball courts. So my question on that is, do you see that then your courts will be less full because you will have them right there in Westlake by the YMCA and you'll have them right down the grade? Are you seeing that you have a lot of people coming from other areas to your courts that will not be there?
When I was here last time, I spoke of this thing that
Brian Donald and HBO Sports and episode that I was hoping that any of you might have viewed from October of last year. An 18-minute segment that talks about this sport in detail and where it's going, what's happening in America. Why the Newport Beach Tennis Club is now the Newport Beach Football Club. Why the Bobby Riggs Tennis Center in Encinitas has no one tennis court.
So,
I would like to add too, that again, for people that said, more kids are learning all the time, and I see so often 3 generations of families on the pickleball courts together. The kids are going to say, "Oh, I can beat grandma and grandpa," and they're getting hurt. Well, I won't get it. But I think the number of Camarillo people and Liquid Village people that don't come once they finish their work will be totally supplanted, outmanned, whatever, by the number of additional students that we get, or additional players that we get almost on a daily basis.
okay. And then my second question is, how much do they charge for the pickleball membership at the Westlake Village Athletic Club?
It's like $165.
Okay.
Their locking facility, all of that. But
Okay.
they're not allowed to use the 11 tennis courts.
Okay. Right.
That's for the same. Yeah, Ian Cameron got through.
So it's a little less to add on your spouse or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my last question is, how many courts do you actually need? I mean, but that's not like, do you really know? You know, you have this many people waiting. If we had, has anyone like done the numbers of like, well, if we had this many, then we wouldn't have people wait. Is the goal to never have someone waiting?
No, that's.
Okay. So that's why I'm curious, like, do you need? Okay, so just 6 courts.
I think it also depends on very quickly. Add them on to like Rancho Mayo, maybe not as much as you go to central spot, the more people go central.
Right.
You know, so I would say, yes, if you add on the Rancho Mayo, 10 to 12, if you pick one of the new trucks.
Oh, okay. So it's,
Other is what people still be out out. 26. Out out very rapidly. And they're doing the same thing down in planning, and they're getting funding for 24.
is that in addition to the, so is that the one?
That's the Pleasant Valley Ports, I believe.
Wow, that's gonna be a lot of
It's not
courts.
there next year, yeah. Don't have
That's
anything
gonna be a lot.
there.
Oh,
I've seen.
We're paying $90 every single time we're taking it. So it's a big income, you know, like you said, however many people are taking classes each time we're taking it.
Okay, I'm
That's-
gonna ask.
those are my
do you have any
questions. Thank
further
you.
comments or questions? Anybody, any of the other directors? Director Nichols?
Yeah, but just a couple thoughts, as I was kind of mulling this over I kind of had the same question as Director Buss, is like, how much is enough? Do we need, 8 six-plex parks? Is that going to be enough? Every 2 years, you need 6 more. But the thing that I kept thinking of, aside from capital, which is obviously you need the funding to be able to build it. And, we're just trying to maintain what we have. We've got 60 years of development, and we're just, if you were not mesmerized by the photos, but saw some of the bar charts that we're looking at, the capital is while we had a couple of bonus years, kind of limited. So we're just trying to think, how do we manage all this? And aside from, building things, we've also got things like the Conejo Community Center, which is 65 years old and very, very tired. And we've got to somehow redo that. Well, that's $20 million. And so we know we've got, Borchard Community Center is right behind it because we have several facilities that were 60s and 70s. And so we're kind of looking at, not only just the next couple of years, but we know those are out there. And we're just trying to say, okay, and how do we squeeze this in there with, as you saw in our capital plan, how that works. So I just kind of keep going through this. Yeah, just, show me the money. But then the other thing is the land itself. We don't have any new places to put parks. We've built all of our parks. I think we got maybe a couple that are still out there for neighborhood parks, but not a whole lot of land. And then we've also got the City of Thousand Oaks general plan kind of hanging out there as to, where these new units may be coming in the future and how many of them, and how's that going to change our population? How's that going to change the demographics? Are we going to get more school children? Are we going to get more aging in place? A lot of these, kind of factors that I'm just kind of going through and that's just from reading newspapers and kind of keeping up with our current events. And thinking at some point it's going to head us on the dais, but I'm just kind of thinking as I hear what you're saying, and I know that, our family has 4 generations here in town. My mother-in-law, us, children, grandchildren, we all live in town here. So we cover it all. In fact, we added one more yesterday. So we got 5 grandkids. But I keep thinking, what's their future going to be, as well as, what I can do out there pickleball. So I keep thinking of those things, and I know what you're saying about the demographics of where we are now. I've been witnessing that personally for 40 years here. I've seen where we came from and where we are. But those are the types of things that I keep thinking of. And then we talk about the lessons that you can't even click the button fast enough to get that lesson. We hear the same thing about equestrian camps. They say, hey, we need more camps for equestrians. Well, okay, we only have so many horses. Well, how many horses do we need to get out there to make sure that, these hundreds of kids, can do equestrian camp? So again, there's that limitation of, well, we can maybe do a few more, but we can't do it because then if we get more horses, then we need more land and we need more staffing. So all those little kind of competing interests. So those are the things just going through my head as I'm thinking about all those things. It's just like, yeah, show me the land, show me the money. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's get started. But then also, yeah, but I got to think about this and the other thing and a couple of years from now. So, that's just kind of like the reality of it. I have no argument against the value of pickleball or the growing interest in pickleball. That's real. It's just a matter of, what resources that we have. Most of them are limited to be able to squeeze all this in. And, I know we're on the pickleball committee with Director Huffer, and we're looking at some options. So it's definitely on our radar, and we're even considering, well, what can we do in the near future, not just way out there. But I just kind of keep thinking about all these things, and it's not so much just, well, what can we do today, but how do we plan this out, which is why we go through this process. But I must say, I wanted to echo what Director Huffer was saying with the education that I've gleaned from you folks and the polite way in which it's done and the constructive way which it's done. No placards, no protests, no rioting, just a good, honest to goodness conversation. And so I so much appreciate that. The invitations, going out to the community center with board member Gorbach and the invitation. But Catherine, now you know my excuse why I couldn't get out there. We were busy babysitting this week. So appreciate all the support, and probably said way more than I needed to, but I just want to share some of the thoughts that are going through my mind, just collectively as we as a group try to work through this. But thank you for the presentations, for the comments, and I'm sure we have not heard from the last few, which I hope is true, because we need this dialogue to make things work. But thank you so much for participating. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Director Cussworth.
I'm going to be very brief, but I think that all of us, I'll speak for myself, but I think everybody on the board is very supportive of wanting more pickleball courts. I think that's something that we all want. And that you've given us very good information. You've given us very good statistics. And I want you to know that we're going to try hard to meet the needs as soon as we can.
Okay, well, I do have to say, I'm a little surprised that Director Nichols said if we had the land and if we had the money, boom, we'd do it. Director Nichols is a former planning commissioner, and he knows as well as anybody else that even if you have the land and the money, there's a whole lot of stuff that has to go into it before it happens. So with that, again, thank you all very much for coming out. I expect we'll see at least one or two of you in 2 weeks for our final budget hearing. And again, you're more than welcome to stick around for the rest of our entertaining meeting. If not, thank you and have a good evening. I'm closing the public hearing on budget. Okay, we're going to move along to,
Restroom break request.
oh, okay, we're going to take a 3-minute break.
Thank you.
Put my microphone on. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Huffer, members of the board. The first resolution tonight that we're recommending for adoption is for Rancho Conejo. From the May 4th report, nothing has changed in the official engineer's report. The assessment rate will change from $106 $106.10 to $110.19. And with that, I am available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Mooney on this item? If not, I will entertain a motion, keeping in mind that this is a resolution. Director Cusworth.
Okay, I move that we adopt resolution number 060-123-A, ordering the levy of assessments for LMD 92-1 Rancho Conejo, and that it be read in title only and all future readings be waived.
We have a motion and a second. You get the next one. Madam Secretary, will you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 060-123-A. A resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District, Landscape Maintenance District number 92-1, Rancho Conejo.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second and an excellent reading. Are there any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. On to item 7C. Andrew.
The second assessment is for Dos Vientos. The recommendation is to adopt the resolution. Again, from our May 4th meeting, there were no changes to the report. There will be a change of $331.28 down to $318.46. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions on this item? If not, I will entertain a motion, again, keeping in mind that this is a resolution.
I will make the motion. I move that we adopt resolution number 060-123-B, ordering the levy of the assessments for LMD 94-1 Dos Vientos, that it be read in title only and all future readings be waived.
Yay.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second. It'll be my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, will you read the resolution?
Resolution number 060-123-B, a resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District, Landscape Maintenance District number 94-1, Dos Vientos Ranch.
Thank you very much. We have a motion, a second, and another excellent reading. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mooney, back to you one more time.
So the third assessment is the district-wide Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District. Again, the report was actually not changed significantly. We had some minor clarifications on the map as far as naming park properties. But the rate is looking to increase $41.51 from last year to $42.75 for this year. So with that, I'm available for question.
Any questions on this night, this item? If not, I will entertain a motion. Again, this is a resolution. Someone,
I guess I'll have to do it.
sure, why not? Director Nichols.
Yeah, move adopting resolution as recommended by staff. That the resolution be read in title only and all future readings be waived.
Thank you very much. And we have a second from Director Cusworth. Madam Secretary, one more time.
60123-C, a resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District.
Thank you very much. We have a motion, second and reading. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, items for discussion. I don't believe we have anything, do we, Mr. Jonah Manager? No. No. 9A, memorandum of understanding with SEIU. This will be another resolution. Are we going directly to Ms. Smith on this?
Sure. So thank you, Chair Huffer and directors. We went into detail on this last week and there's no changes obviously since then. In brief, this is a MOU between CRPD and SEIU Local 721. It's for some highlights of it. It's a 10% COLA over 2 years, some changes to accruals and holidays, changes to our cafeteria plan and other adjustments to comply with state law and tax law. And with that, I'm available for any questions you might have. And then also Shelley is available via Zoom if we have any detailed questions that I can't answer.
We did make that one correction on the
Oh,
holiday.
yes.
Thank you.
Chair Huffer did notice that our Labor Day month was incorrect and we will be correcting that.
So it is September, not May.
Yes, and apparently it's been that way for years and years. So thank you. You were somehow the first that caught that. So I appreciate it.
I told Jim I was a little embarrassed because I remember some years ago, yeah, who was it? Joe and I sat down and supposedly went through this with a fine tooth comb. Obviously, the tooth comb wasn't fine enough. So all these years we've been given the wrong holiday.
Exactly.
Anyway, again, this is a resolution. Can I get a motion to approve? Director Lang, I think you're up.
Okay, my pleasure to recommend we adopt resolution number 060123-E approving the MOU between the district and the SEIU Local 721 and adjusting employee compensation and benefits as outlined in the board report.
And
that'll be read in title only and all further readings be waived.
you'd think you'd know it by now, George. Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second, please? Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, if you'll read the title.
Resolution number 060123-E, a resolution of the Conejo Recreation and Park District adopting the memorandum of understanding with SEIU and adjusting salary and benefits for other employees.
Thank you very much. Again, we have a motion, second, and a reading. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Moving along to 9B, Capital Improvements Fund Grant. Mr. Mooney, are you handling this?
Thank you, Chair Huffer, members of the board. This report is information only, requiring no action by the board. Just to kind of give you some background, we do have a capital improvement fund grant, and we use that to be able to work with our partner groups throughout our facilities district-wide. We've been doing this program. We're finishing up our 13th cycle this year, which we've put in over $1.5 million into the community, which means the community, plus or minus with matching grants and stuff, basically put in about another 3/4 to about $1 million. So pretty good stuff to be able to work with our community partners, such as like our sports groups, our museums, and other gardens and such like that. So we do have a non-matching level that's up to 5,000 maximum, and then we do have a matching that's up to 25,000. And we are looking at 11 groups for this year. No strangers to it. We have a couple of our museums, as well as some of our sports clubs and our gardens, as well as McCray Ranch and Right On. So it's a good mix of improvements. So staff's excited to partner up with our groups and work to get some more stuff done in the parks. And so this will be our 14th cycle, and we're looking at $117,000, 998, which will be budgeted for $118,000 in the funds. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Yes, Director Cusworth.
So I'm just sort of wondering how this works with the matching funds, because I've heard different things. Let's say somebody gets a $4,000 donation. So they have to purchase something first with the 4,000, and then do you reimburse them half the amount? For example, let's say somebody gets a $4,000 donation. With that, they purchase some storage. They give you a receipt, and then do you give them 2,000 or do you give them 4,000?
Depending on what their grant is for, right? So just because they receive a donation doesn't necessarily mean that goes straight to the grant program. So depending on how the group manages it, but basically if you have to make it simple, you have a $10,000 matching grant. For every dollar spent, we will pay that back 50%. So for 50 cents on every dollar up to that 10,000.
Oh, up to 25,000.
Sorry, for my hypothetical, I said 10,000, but up to 25
see.
max, correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so a $50,000 project, we will pay 25,000, and to process it, they can make either one final payment or invoice to us, and we would give them, for every dollar they put in, we would pay them 50% of that dollar, up to 25%.
Okay, so I understand now, because you were saying 10,000, so you would give them a check for 5,000. So you're not giving them a check. You're not matching it dollar for dollar. You're matching it 50 cents on the dollar.
No, it's the program's matching, but they need to make progress on the work. So the goal is, because it's matching, so if they have a project that's 25,000, but they only spent 10 of that, depending on the invoice, then we would pay them 5,000. So they have to make good on their commitment to build a $50,000 project.
Right. Okay.
So it's dollar for dollar. It's a matching grant program.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Director Nichols.
$11. So we got five for non-matching and 6 for matching this year. Yes. Not necessarily for a while, but like AYSO, they recently have done the shade structure project and the storage. They also did some lighting. They chose not to submit a grant this year. So there's some folks that come and go over the years. But they're typically, this is the group, especially in the 8 years that I've been here. These are all very familiar user groups that we're working with. So, but not to say that everyone does it every year, but typically they do. So.
What baseball team play with that? Just
So they do host tournaments and things like that. So there is like outside folks that come and play there through our partnership with that group. So it's not just necessarily just in town local teams that would play on that field. Typically I do not, Jim might know better than me, but typically they do not play there. But I think at times throughout there, they do play there, but it's not on a routine basis, is my understanding.
And I can elaborate. So pre-COVID, so I actually haven't revisited with them whether they had a league, but they did have a little league,
That level.
age group, and I don't remember their nomenclature for what the oldest kid age group play there. But it goes from that level, so you're like oldest, open little league type organization all the way to competitive like high school and then even collegiate. There's a wood bat collegiate league that even plays there. So it gets to be high level, and then it even is occasionally rented out to pro teams, or like sometimes when they're doing like tryouts and stuff, there'll be a pro team out there with players and stuff like that. So it's a high-end field with high user fees. It's not cheap to get on that field. Yeah.
Okay, and sorry. And with this matching and non-matching group, are there other groups that we think might be out there that have been targeted and we just haven't really got interest in it? Or is this been pretty much the groups that we would expect to hear
Yeah,
from?
this is pretty much the group that this is the solid kind of return applicants for the program.
Okay.
So other than like AYSO and even like the pickleball group, they decided not to this year, but they've done it in years past. So.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, thank you very much. Thank you,
But
Mr.
in follow-up, don't we typically send out letters to most or all of
Yeah.
the
Yep.
local sports groups? So everyone's aware of it, but there's only a certain number that typically applies, so.
Correct. Yeah, we try to do a big net with it to get as much interest from the community as possible with it. So.
Any other questions? Director Lang?
A little comment in reference to Director Nichols' question about that ball field. A little history. We were building it and CLU baseball season was about to start, but they didn't have a field yet, their current field. So they worked out a deal with CRPD to complete the construction and put on the AstroTurf. So the reason that one is a upper level type of field and so forth is partially due to CLU's contribution of putting in that AstroTurf and little extra things and dugout and so forth. So CRPD benefited from that situation.
If there are no further comments or questions, I will, well, this is just information, isn't it? So it does not require any action. All right, moving along to item 9C, memorandum of understanding between the Arts Council and CRPD.
Thank you, Chair Heffer, members of the board. So in front of you is a update for our MOU with the Arts Council. We have been with them for 42 years. Our arrangement was updated a couple of years ago, and it's just time to update it. Nothing is changing in it except for adding an additional 2 years to the MOU. So I think that is it. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we're just basically asking the general manager to be able to extend the current MOU for an additional 2 years, which would end on May 18th of 2025.
Any questions on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion
Thank you.
that we authorize the general manager to sign the 2-year memorandum of understanding amendment 2 between the Conejo Recreation and Park District and the Arts Council of Conejo Valley and extend that for another 2 years.
Thank
No
you.
changes.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Director
I'll
Lang?
second that.
Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. 9D, amendment number 2 to public pedestrian trail project and use agreement from St. Patrick's Day School to Old Meadows.
Thank you, Chair Huffer, me again, and members of the board. Recommendation tonight, similar to Rochelle's previous item, is that we're looking just to extend the existing agreement. We have been under agreement with St. Patrick's Day School since July of 2013. We've extended it was original 5 years, and then we extended it again back in May of 2018. So similar terms and everything, nothing changed, just an extension for the next 5 years. And it's based, just to kind of give some of you folks the background, it's basically about 1,000 feet plus or minus trail to get from the day school down to Old Meadows Park that they use from time to time for programming. So it's basically a trail for their use that's on public land, hence the agreement. So, and with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes, thank you. Just one question. Excuse me. With this being a public trail, and yet one end of it is on private property. Obviously, it benefits the school. Kids can walk down to the park, but if park goers decide to go exploring and end up at the church property, have we encountered any issues in the past with the church complaining or any I guess, unintended consequences of that arrangement?
We haven't had any issues there. And also it could be used just for a nice walk to get up an elevation in the neighborhood, walk through the trees and get out. So whether it's a neighbor or a user from St. Patrick's Day School, I think there's definitely public benefit there. So.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other question, Director Lang?
Yes, listening to Director Nichols' question and concern, when this first came before the board, there was a lot of, unknowns, being private park district trail and maintenance and liabilities and so forth. And I'm really pleased to hear that over these many years, there hasn't been any issues. And so I think in the future, we can, possibly consider other arrangements that might pop up. We've been very fortunate for this relationship.
Any other questions? Yes, Director Buss.
I have a comment. I've actually done that trail as a workout. It's excellent. I highly recommend it if you want to get through your steps in.
Anything else? Just to clarify, the Park District is responsible for maintaining the trail, correct?
No, so the school is responsible for it. And so we have our staff, Matt Kuba, obviously with his background and experience, checks in with them and make sure, after heavy rain events like this past spring and early or late winter, checks in with them and make sure that it's in good shape and provides recommendations and such.
Okay, because I was a little bit worried after all those rains, like some of the steps that were put in that could be affected.
Yeah, and for
so.
the most part, it held up pretty good, but just like anything, it needs some maintenance and love, so.
Okay. And they provided the maintenance and love, so.
Correct.
Perfect. All right, if there are no further questions. I will entertain a motion on this. Director Nichols.
Sure, I move that we authorize the general manager to enter into the agreement as proposed and recommended by staff.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Director Lang, between bites, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 10, reports and announcements. Does anyone have any questions or comments on recreation highlights, senior center commission, budget performance report, investment report, or park dedication fee? Director Lang.
Thank you, Chair Huffer. Real quick, and a compliment and very pleased to see the Recreation Division highlights on page 219 about the alternative school 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I think that's really great, giving them this opportunity. But what also caught my attention is the very last part of this sentence. It had a positive impact on them, the 3 players. And we can make that kind of an impact on different youth in our community and in different programs such as this one. I think it's just fabulous. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Director Cussworth.
I just wanted to clarify something because I saw here the Safe Passage end of school year party on the calendar. And that was going to be at the Conejo Community Center, but I thought it was going to be at the apartments. There was just two different
There's
activities.
two on the same
There's two
day
different ones.
at the same time.
Oh,
So there's one at Conejo Condos, Conejo Creek. It's in partnership with the homeowners association there.
so
And
is
it's
it-
like a
is that-
carnival.
Are those condos the one off Hillcrest?
No. And it's the ones behind Conejo Creek. Oh, off of Hill, I'm sorry, I'm on behind the rails.
Yeah, by Del Taco. That's what I thought.
Yes,
Okay,
you're correct.
okay,
And then the other one is at Conejo Community Center. That's why it gets confusing.
okay. But they're both on the same day at the same time. All right,
Yes.
okay.
Any other questions or comments on any of these items? If not, we'll move along to department reports. Parks Division, Mr. Mooney.
I will be brief, but fun stuff. We opened Banyan's Playground a couple weeks ago. As well as we are underway at Dos Vientos Community Park with their new playground and fitness areas there. So we will be, I'm going to confirm the date. We will be doing, I know Aline already sent out the notice, but on the 8th of July, we're looking to do a ribbon cutting and opening. So fun day for the community to enjoy the newest fun playground. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mooney? No, moving right along to recreation, Ms. Callis.
Thank you again. Just a couple of things. Yesterday we had Tech Day at the Teen Center. It was a collaboration with the CV at USD school and their GATE students that are in 6th grade. And they come and they do all sorts of fun techie stuff. And it was a great turnout. They had about 250 kids there with their teachers. So that was really fun. We are prepping for summer. It is going to be busy. Classes are filling up. People are signing up for all sorts of stuff. Staff are getting trained, staff are getting hired. We are keeping Melissa's department very busy with new hires and all that good stuff. So the staff out there are doing a really great job. We're in a little bit of a slow session right now because we're in between, but it's going to get pretty crazy here pretty soon. We did, as a division team, have a training. We had some folks come in and do a training with us on just kind of how the environment has changed and how to communicate with people and work with the community after kind of COVID. So that was a really good training. We had pretty much everybody attend that. So that's it on the report. I'm available for questions.
Questions from Ms. Callis. Yes, Director Bus.
I have a question. So have you been having issues with hiring for your summer staff, or has it been somewhat easier? How's it going?
I believe it's a little better than it has been.
Oh, good.
So I am not hearing that we're in desperate need, but our staff has worked very hard at getting out and going to colleges, doing job fairs. We're doing things differently. Last year was, I think, the first year we did it. And this year, again, we've done it where we've had like open days on Tuesday, come to this site and we'll just interview on the spot, type of thing. But we have gone out to colleges and done some different things before they were all out of school. And we got a decent amount of people from that. And then a lot of people are coming back, not as many as before COVID, but now they're starting to come back again. So I don't think we're in a high need right now. Still looking for a few here and there, but
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
and Dee does an awesome job with lifeguards. So she's always like grown her lifeguards and she goes to the high schools with flyers and stuff and we train them and then they get a job if they go through the training. So she's doing pretty good. She's got two additional pools that'll open in the summer. So
Any other questions? No, move along to management services. Ms. Smith, we haven't heard from you in just minutes.
I have a few more things to say. I do want to thank Rochelle and her team. Usually the new hires this time of year is really chaotic for us getting them all in the system, and her team has been very responsive and working with us to make that more of an easy transition because it's just a very busy year. And I do want to thank my staff, Loretta and Shelley in particular, for both developing the budget and that MOU process. They put in a lot of hard work. So I want to recognize them. And yeah, with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Smith? No, let's move along to General Manager's report. Mr. Friedel.
Yes, thanks, Chair Huffer, members of the board. I think we haven't actually been in here all together for a month, right? Because, yeah, so I was just going to rip through some notable things. I was looking at my calendar. We did the gratitude circle, and thanks to Becca, the editor, was there, and that was awesome. Got some good coverage for some really awesome people. The Parks Division held a really nice open house for all the staff in the district to see what the Parks Division does, which I thought was a really is an Andrew new guy innovative idea thing. It was kind of cool way to let everyone else see what all the things that are going on in parks. Casca board met, not to take Casca board member thunder, but we do now have some better regulations on e-bikes in the open space. The pickleball ad hoc committee met, the cricket pitch was opened. We had that CARPD conference, and Director Nichols is our president of CARPD, which was a great conference. And then our kicked off summer with just a really nice Memorial Day concert that most of you were at. That was just like a nice day, good temperature, just good crowd size, good band. It was just nice. Anyway, so maybe as a follow-up, we certainly can get the pickleball ad hoc committee together for the next board meeting or before the next board meeting. I'll just check with the schedule and just try to see your availability and whatnot, but we can talk about that later. But other than that, we're prepared to bring the final budget at the next meeting, and staff's worked really hard to get it to this point. So I'm available for questions.
Yes, Director Lang.
Yes, he mentioned the Memorial Day concert. Do we have an estimate of the crowd and attendance?
I would say over 5,000
Over
comfortably.
5?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Mhm.
I was thinking 3 or 4.
Oh, no, yeah. That was one of our biggest
I
that
mean,
we've
that
had.
rivals some that I
Mhm.
recall in the future.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, Rachel's out there counting each one individually.
I have
So,
pictures and
any other questions for our general manager? No, let's go to director's reports and follow-up reports on meetings, conferences attended. I think I started this way, so I'm going to start with Director Lang this time.
That was the last one to chatter, so, okay, the general manager mentioned the gratitude circle, Buchanan, Holt, and McQueenie. And also mentioned about the cricket ball field at Pepper Tree Playfields. And I think I conveyed this before, I was really treated royally, having been the only director there. And I was very impressed with not only the players that I interacted with, but also a couple of the parents and their wives of the players. It's a very nice organization. Had a Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy meeting. Also attended the CRPD annual conference up in Yosemite. And another special board of directors, CRPD board of directors concert. And also the MRCA dedicated the Sheila James Kuehl Nature Preserve at Ladyface Mountain there in Agora Hills. And I was involved. So I've asked the general manager who attended if he had any comments that he would like to make in general. I thought it was a very good event.
Yeah, George let me know he was going to do this. So I'm not quite sure why, but I'm happy to do it. Thank you, Director Lang. Yeah, so the MRCA hadn't done one of these since pre-COVID.
Right.
And it was naming, I think, an area in honor of Sheila James Kuehl, but it got out some pretty political heavyweights to attend. So George got to kick off speakers that included Fran Pavley, former senator and assembly member Fran Pavley, and Zev Yaroslavsky was there. Oh gosh, I should probably
Julia
remember.
Brownlee.
Julia Brownlee was there. Congresswoman Brownlee was there. So, you know, and of course the local, the mayor and in Agora and whatnot. So it was just it was a very nice event in kind of recognition of you know, Sheila Kuehl's time as a supervisor and doing the work she did to help, you know, the MRCA amass the property that it did. So it was a really, really nice event, and you would never think of it as a nice location because it was right below Canaan Road. Like the cars were just really close, but when you were under these oak trees and next to a little creek and the flowers, it was just lovely. It was really nice. It was well done. So the MRCA did a great job.
And thank you for attending and supporting it. It was one of those events, like you say, we hadn't had one since pre-COVID, and it was one of those events that really make you extra proud to be associated with an organization that does so much. As Melissa knows, we're unique, and you should be proud that you're associated with it.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow. Okay. Director Buss.
So May, I have a chili cook-off hangover, so I try I don't go out very much. So I was at the Gratitude Circle, and we had the Conejo Youth and Family Summit, and that is all I have to report. Those two.
Thank you, Director Cusworth.
Director Lang wasn't the only one at the cricket, as I was also there.
Not in time for the ribbon cutting.
No, they were waiting for me, but I didn't realize we were supposed to be there at 1 o'clock to cut a ribbon. So I didn't get there till 1:30, but it was very nice. They had lunch and the people were delightful, and it was a very lovely event. And I'm just so glad that we were able to support these people. They were so grateful to be able to have a cricket pitch. And I think that we must be innovative because we are the first in Ventura County to have that. And I guess we were one of the first to have pickleball, from what they said. So we seem to be at the top of the game here in CRPD. So I was at a lot of the things that you've been. Something that I was at that was unusual for me is I went to the Chamber of Commerce Gala, and usually everybody's there, but you were all in Yosemite. So I was the only one there, and I really enjoyed it because I sat at this table with people I didn't know. So I got to talk to everybody and get to know some people, and they put me at a very nice table. I mean, past award winners, present award winners that were getting awards. So it was, and it was at the Moore Park Zoo. So we, you know, walked around and saw things. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And, you know, the Stagecoach Inn, I went to their board meeting, but I want to just really briefly tell you something. I went to the Dino Dig, and I took my 4-year-old grandson. Now, I signed him up, but when I got there, I thought, okay, this looks fine. You know, they got some dinosaur things. They got an exploding volcano, whatever, a bunch of little kids here. They went over and they're digging for some dinosaurs. You can see a picture here, and they had some things for me. We're talking about little plastic dinosaurs this big. It's like, okay, it's nice. I registered my, 11-year-old too, and she was kind of going with it. We get done, we go to a table, and I said, well, do you want to play the memory game? Do you want to go to the park? He goes, I want to play with my dinosaurs. My grandchildren are not impoverished. He's playing there, and he found another friend for 20 minutes. They played with the little plastic dinosaurs. Okay. So then my granddaughter said, let's go to the park. Okay, we're going to go to the park. He went and stood at a table at the park with all the swings and everything, and he played with the little dinosaurs. He was so into it. Okay, that's fine. Next day, I go over to my daughter's house to drop something off. My husband's with me. We go in the house. On the couch, he's playing with these plastic dinosaurs and says to my husband, Grandpa, come and see the dinosaurs. I dug up the dinosaurs. I dug up the dinosaurs at the park. And he's playing with these dinosaurs. I would not have appreciated that activity if I had not taken him. I would have thought it was a nice activity. But by taking him and seeing it through a 4-year-old's eyes, really opened up to me how age appropriate it was for these kids. So.
You can hear you've been buying all these. Cheap
I have to say,
dinosaurs.
my grandson has dinosaurs that move, stuffed dinosaurs, big dinosaurs. He sleeps with dinosaurs. He has dinosaurs at our house. He has dinosaurs at his house. He is no lack of dinosaurs. He knows everything about dinosaurs, matching dinosaur games, cards with dinosaurs, but he wanted to play with those plastic dinosaurs that he dug up from the sand. I'm just saying, it was very good. I thanked Brian very heartily. Hopefully he knows how much we appreciated it.
Director Nichols, can you top that?
No, I cannot. I cannot top what's buried in the ground. Just a quick review. I too was at the gratitude circle, as General Manager mentioned. We had a Costco Board of Directors, meeting, which was interesting. Again, we had a preview on that on the e-bikes, electric bikes. And, what should or should not be used on the trails. And that was quite an educational process. I think about 30+ page packet on e-bikes and, more, I just, was quite overwhelmed. But what I did learn is that they have 3 classes, 1, 2, and 3, and we allow the first, but not the other 2, because the first one, it's a pedal assist version as opposed to just only electric, and you just operate like a throttle, like maybe you would a motorcycle. So we got that as approved. So now we know, now I know. The trick is identifying them from 100 yards. So which one are they on? So, but anyhow, it was an interesting process. And we did have the pickleball ad hoc committee. And then on the 17th, we had a CARPD Board of Directors meeting in advance of the conference, and then attended the conference up at the Fish Camp by Yosemite from the 18th through the 20th, and got a lot of good reviews from that. Sorry you couldn't join us, maybe next time. And then many people were enjoying the hikes up to Yosemite and commenting of how they've never seen so much waterfall out of the waterfalls. It was just amazing. Then we had our special board meeting on the 25th, and then the concert at the park. One thing that I did want to mention, though, is I stopped by the Global Adult Center last week midday to pick up some Global Gazettes. I'm going to be speaking at a meeting, so I wanted to grab a handful of these. And spoke to the folks there, the staff, and I could hear the bingo calling in the background. But that seems like there's no other sound. What is going on over there? So I poked my head around the corner, and here's this room. I don't know, must have been 100 people there playing bingo. I mean, there's just all like this. No conversation, no nothing, just, the here number they dot. This is amazing. Can we get this type of attention in schools? But what I also was very impressed with is this wasn't all seniors. I saw some 20-somethings in the group and some 30-somethings. They were all mixed in. Now, granted, most of them were, leaning towards my age group or more. But I was really impressed. This is a multi-age, multi-generational group, but they are serious. I mean, it's very serious. I've been there a number of times, but I just was impressed with, I mean, it's run well. Obviously, they do this time and time again. It's a very popular activity, but the ages, I think, is what struck me the most. I just figured it'd just be a lot of, only seniors. I mean, it is the middle of the day on a weekday, but no, there's multiple age groups there. So I just was excited to see that this truly is an adult center, not just a senior adult center, which we kind of assume that sometimes. So, but anyhow, that was my aha moment for the month.
Okay, well, I think pretty much all the events that have been mentioned, Director Lang, yes.
I had to jump on the comment that Doug mentioned. And Rochelle, on 2 occasions that I can recall, our board or there's some event where it was invited to a bingo game or night or something like that. And it was fun and hear Doug talk about it. Can we look into maybe something similar in the future?
You're
If-
probably, you're probably remembering the pie auction,
Yeah.
which they did have this year. But
Well,
we
yeah,
probably, we
obviously-
probably didn't get the information on it, but
Yeah, they did have a pie auction, but it is a bingo that I, lopped onto and listening to Doug. And I thought it was a great experience. I play bingo at different parties every so often over the years, but it was really a focused event. A lot of people, involved and having fun and so forth. So just curious.
Yeah, I can get you the dates and times of when the bingo happens, but I think Therapeutics is the only one that does like a special event. But there's a calendar of the regular days and times for bingo.
Okay.
Is that
so
what you're talking
I would like
about?
to see the board, and whoever's senior staff, visit and show our support for, it's a great program because they raise a lot of money.
You do. It's run by the commission and
Right.
it's, okay, let me.
Thank you, Director Huffer.
are you done now?
I'm,
Okay, most of the events that were mentioned, I was at the dedication of, or the gratitude circle and the Costco board meeting and the pickleball subcommittee, which hopefully we'll be able to get together and somewhere in the next month or two, we might have something to the board. I meant to mention, Director Nichols was elected as president, but in his prior incarnation as president-elect, he was chair of the planning committee for the CARPD conference, and the location and the program and everything there were just absolutely wonderful. So kudos to you and the others who were involved with planning that conference. I mean, Tahoe was nice, but I think Yosemite is even nicer, so. So anyway, good conference. Because it finished up Friday night, I was able to hop in the car Saturday and get back down here and attend the Cowboy Cookout at McCrae, which I always love. And had a good turnout for that. Tom was there, and it's the one time a year where we get to see the McCrae residents. So I always enjoy doing that, and good group there. I think that's probably about it. I've told people I'm looking forward to, you had the stuff in the recreation highlights about the upcoming Touch-A-Truck, and my grandson's gonna be in town, yay. So that'll be fun, yeah. Yes. No, you've already had your second chance. This is Director Nichols.
I was just, I forgot to mention that Tom Hare is actually one of our guest speakers at the conference, and he spoke on the 10-year CIP spreadsheet and plan that we all are so intimately familiar with. But what he led off his conversation with was how many of you folks, of course, we had a room full of probably about 50 or so representing park and rec districts across the state. How many of you folks do a 10-year CIP plan? Nothing. How many of you do a 2-year? Nothing. How many do 1 year? I mean, I know 10 years is kind of out there, but I thought there'd be a little more pre-planning than just everybody kind of doing 1 year at a time. I take it back. I think there was one other district that does a 2-year process. But I think it just, again, goes to show you how forward-thinking this organization is in so many respects. I mean, 10-year CIP is not a real, talkable subject. People don't want to discuss things like that. But when you realize how much effort it takes to plan and implement something like that, and yet to see the results of it. And one thing I mentioned to him, because I was the moderator of that session, I told folks, I said, when you know that you've planned for 10 years and then staff comes back, either mid-year or the second year, we need to make some tweaks. I said, you feel very comfortable about that because you've already planned at least for 2 years, but then also 3 or 4 years, and then even 10 years. So there's been some forethought. And I was just frankly shocked that there weren't more organizations that had maybe just 2 years. So again, just wanted to thank staff for that, and then also for the board on, making that effort to go to that extent of pre-planning years into the future, so we can be comfortable with 1 or 2. Even with snap of the finger, if things change, we're covered. So, and thanks to staff for making that, because I know all of you are a part of that, and their general manager as well. Again, it speaks highly of the organization, so thank you.
Yeah, and not just the capital budgets, but it was shocking how many districts do their full budget annually.
Yep.
I mean, can you imagine we're spreading this out over 2 months and having to go through that process every single year?
So do I get my second turn?
Yes, you do. I'm keeping track though, so.
No, I was just gonna, say kudos to Tom also, because he also gave the same speech at San Diego. So I think that's great that Tom's kind of going out there with what he learned and trying to, spread out and improve other, rec and parks, and, that's great. Yay, Tom.
Director
My
Lang.
topics were covered exactly as I was, Tom here and got to see him and so forth. But I do have something else. We really live in a small community, a great community. As some of you know, I'm still going through PT. And a couple weeks ago, I heard my name called out. It was David Szymanski, the head of the National Park Service next door. And this past Wednesday, same thing, I was laying on the table and, hey, George, there was David Szymanski, plus Susan Holt and Ed at the same physical therapy center. So, I mean, we had great conversation, but it was just, reminding me that we still live in a small community.
Very small.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there are no other reports or announcements, item 12, request for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. I haven't heard anybody suggest anything, so 13 items from the public. Do we have anybody standing by online wishing to speak?
How about in the audience?
How about in the audience? Would the audience like to speak? No, okay, all right, Becca, all right. I'm assuming we do not have need for executive closed session?
No need for a closed session.
Yay. With that, we will adjourn tonight's meeting.
Good job, Chair.